You are not living your life. You are playing a game, an elaborate, unconscious game with rules you never chose, objectives you never set, and victory conditions that were programmed into you before you could think for yourself. This game is called being human, and every day you participate in it, you move further away from your true potential and deeper into a maze of limitations disguised as reality. The human game consists of seeking approval from others, accumulating possessions you don't need, competing for status in hierarchies you don't respect, pursuing relationships based on need rather than choice, and measuring your worth through comparisons with other players who are just as lost as you are. You play this game so automatically, so unconsciously, that you mistake it for life itself. Tonight, we explore the most radical proposition you will ever encounter, that everything you consider normal human behavior is actually participation in a collective delusion that prevents transcendence. That your thoughts, desires, fears, and motivations are not authentically yours, but are programmed responses designed to keep you playing a game that serves everyone's interests except your own. To transcend, to become something more than human conditioning allows, you must first recognize the game, understand how it operates, and develop the courage to stop playing it entirely. This is not about becoming antisocial or rejecting all human connection. This is about recognizing that the person you think you are is actually a character in a game, and that your true self exists beyond the boundaries of this artificial identity. Over the next hour, we will examine the rules of the human game, expose why these rules exist, and most importantly, discover what becomes possible when you refuse to continue playing according to programming that was designed to limit rather than liberate your potential. The human game operates according to invisible rules that govern nearly every aspect of your behavior, yet these rules are so deeply embedded in your consciousness that you experience them as natural laws rather than arbitrary constraints. Understanding these rules is the first step toward transcending them. Rule 1. Seek external validation. In the human game, your worth is determined not by your own assessment of your growth and capabilities, but by others' opinions of your performance. You learn to monitor constantly how others perceive you, adjusting your behavior to generate approval and avoid disapproval. This rule ensures that you remain psychologically dependent on other players rather than developing internal sources of confidence and direction. The validation-seeking rule manifests in career choices made to impress parents rather than develop authentic interests, in relationship decisions based on social acceptability rather than genuine compatibility, in creative expression filtered through others' expectations rather than personal vision. You spend enormous energy managing your image while your authentic self remains undeveloped and unexpressed. Rule 2. Compete for artificial scarcity. The human game convinces you that there isn't enough, not enough love, success, recognition, resources or opportunities, and that you must compete with other players for access to these supposedly limited goods. This rule creates the anxiety, jealousy, and aggression that drive much human behavior, while preventing you from recognizing that most scarcity is artificially manufactured. The scarcity rule makes you focus on taking from others rather than creating value, on defending your position rather than expanding your capabilities, on zero-sum thinking rather than abundance creation. You waste energy fighting for pieces of a pie that could be made infinitely larger if you weren't trapped in competitive thinking. Rule 3. Conform to social programming. The human game requires you to adopt beliefs, values, and goals that were created by others rather than discovered through your own experience. You accept religious doctrines without personal verification, political positions without independent analysis, and life objectives without questioning whether they serve your authentic development. This conformity rule prevents you from developing independent judgment and original thinking. You become a repository for others' ideas rather than a generator of your own insights. Your beliefs become social signals rather than personal truths. Your values become performance indicators rather than authentic principles. Rule 4. Pursue temporary pleasures. The human game keeps you focused on immediate gratification rather than long-term development. You seek entertainment instead of growth, comfort instead of challenge, pleasure instead of purpose. This rule ensures that you remain psychologically immature and easily distracted from activities that could lead to genuine transcendence. The pleasure-seeking rule makes you consumer rather than creator, spectator rather than participant, victim of circumstance rather than architect of destiny. You become addicted to stimulation that provides temporary satisfaction while avoiding the sustained effort required for permanent transformation. Rule 5. Fear death and change. The human game programs you to avoid anything that threatens your current identity, comfort, or security. You become so invested in maintaining who you currently are that you refuse to undergo the psychological death and rebirth that genuine growth requires. This rule keeps you trapped in familiar limitations rather than embracing the unknown territories where transcendence becomes possible. The fear rule makes you choose security over opportunity, familiarity over adventure, maintenance over evolution. You preserve versions of yourself that no longer serve your development, because change feels like death to the ego identity that the human game has convinced you is your true self. Rule 6. Identify with roles and labels. The human game provides you with identities, professional, social, familial, cultural, that define what you can think, feel, and do. You become so identified with these roles that you mistake them for your essence, limiting your possibilities to what these identities permit. The identification rule prevents you from accessing capabilities and perspectives that don't fit your assigned roles. You remain trapped in character limitations instead of discovering your unlimited nature beyond all categories and definitions. These rules operate simultaneously, creating a complex web of constraints that feel natural and inevitable. You don't experience them as restrictions because they're presented as the way life works, the nature of reality, the human condition, but they are actually programming designed to keep you playing a game that serves the interests of those who benefit from your continued participation while preventing you from discovering what you could become if you stopped playing entirely. The most insidious aspect of these rules is how they make you complicit in your own limitation. You don't feel controlled by external forces. You feel that you're making free choices within a natural system. You don't recognize your participation in the game because the game has convinced you that it is reality itself rather than one possible way of organizing human experience. Within the human game, you experience what feels like unlimited freedom of choice, but these choices are actually variations within predetermined categories that never challenge the fundamental structure of the game itself. You can choose your career, but only from socially acceptable options. You can select your beliefs, but only from culturally available alternatives. You can design your lifestyle, but only within economically feasible parameters. This illusion of choice is perhaps the most sophisticated aspect of the human game because it prevents you from recognizing that all your options exist within boundaries you never consciously accepted. You feel free because you can choose between different forms of participation, never realizing that the choice to not participate has been systematically eliminated from your awareness. Consider how this works in career development. You're presented with thousands of job possibilities, educational pathways, and professional trajectories. This abundance of options creates the feeling that you have complete freedom to determine your professional life. But examine these choices more closely, and you'll discover they're all variations of the same fundamental pattern, trading your time and energy for money, while remaining dependent on systems you don't control. Whether you become a doctor, lawyer, teacher, engineer, or entrepreneur, you're still playing the role of someone who derives identity and security from professional performance. You never consider the possibility of not defining yourself through work, not organizing your life around career advancement, not measuring your worth through professional achievement. The game provides extensive choice within the category of professional identity, while making the category itself seem mandatory rather than optional. You can choose how to play the career game, but you cannot easily choose to not play it at all without being labeled as lazy, irresponsible, or unrealistic. The same pattern appears in relationship choices. You can select from numerous forms of romantic partnership, friendship styles, and family arrangements. This variety creates the impression that you have complete autonomy in determining your relational life. But all these options assume that you should define yourself through relationships with others, that your emotional well-being should depend on others' responses to you, that your sense of completeness should come from external connections rather than internal development. The game offers extensive choice within the category of relational identity, while making isolation, independence, or self-sufficiency seem pathological rather than potentially transcendent. You can choose how to play the relationship game, but you cannot easily choose to develop beyond the need for relationships to define your worth and happiness. Even in spiritual and philosophical matters, where you might expect the greatest freedom, the game provides choices only within acceptable parameters. You can select from various religions, spiritual practices, and philosophical systems, creating the feeling that you have unlimited access to truth and meaning. But examine these options, and you'll find they're all variations of seeking answers outside yourself, following teachings created by others, joining communities organized around shared beliefs. The game provides extensive spiritual choice, while making the possibility of direct, unmediated experience of transcendence seem dangerous, arrogant, or impossible. You can choose how to play the spiritual game. Christianity, Buddhism, New Age, atheism, agnosticism, but you cannot easily choose to transcend the need for any external framework to validate your understanding of existence. This illusion of choice serves multiple functions within the human game. It provides psychological satisfaction by making you feel autonomous while keeping you within controllable boundaries. It channels your energy into decisions between approved alternatives rather than questioning the approval system itself. It makes you feel responsible for your circumstances while preventing you from recognizing how those circumstances are systematically limited. Most importantly, the choice illusion prevents you from developing what we might call metacognitive awareness, the ability to recognize that you're playing a game and that the rules of this game are arbitrary rather than natural. As long as you believe your choices are unlimited, you never question why certain possibilities never occur to you, why some alternatives feel impossible, why your supposedly free decisions consistently produce similar patterns of limitation and dissatisfaction. The person who begins to see through the choice illusion experiences what can be initially disturbing recognition that most of their major life decisions were made within such narrow parameters that they barely constituted choices at all. They followed paths that felt freely chosen, but were actually predictable responses to systematic conditioning. This recognition can create a crisis of identity, because it reveals that the person you think you are, with your unique combination of career, relationships, beliefs, and lifestyle, is actually a fairly standard configuration of responses to the human game's programming. Your individual personality is actually a personalized variation of universal patterns that keep you playing the same game as everyone else. But this crisis of identity is also the beginning of authentic freedom, because it reveals that if your current identity is constructed rather than essential, it can be deconstructed and transcended. If your choices have been unconsciously limited, they can become consciously unlimited. If you've been playing a game without knowing it, you can choose to stop playing once you understand how the game operates. And understanding why the human game is so compelling requires recognizing that many of its rules are embedded not just in social conditioning, but in your biological programming. Your brain evolved over millions of years to ensure survival and reproduction in environments that no longer exist, yet these ancient programs continue to operate, creating drives and responses that the human game exploits to maintain your participation. Your need for social approval isn't just cultural conditioning, it's biological programming that ensured your ancestors' survival within tribal groups where rejection meant death. Your competitive drive isn't just learned behavior, it's genetic programming that helped your forebears secure resources and mates. Your fear of change isn't just psychological conditioning, it's biological programming that kept your ancestors alive by making them cautious about unknown situations. The human game doesn't create these drives, it hijacks them for purposes that no longer serve survival, but do serve the maintenance of systems that depend on your continued participation. Your biological programming for social bonding gets redirected into consumer behavior, career ambition, and relationship addiction. Your survival instincts get channeled into financial anxiety, status competition, and security seeking. Consider how the biological drive for status and hierarchy operates within the human game. In prehistoric environments, higher status meant better access to resources, safer territory, and more reproductive opportunities. This biological programming made status seeking essential for survival and genetic success. But in modern contexts, this same programming gets exploited by systems that create artificial status hierarchies, corporate ladders, social media metrics, educational credentials, wealth accumulation that have no relationship to actual survival or genuine well-being. You continue playing status games because your biology rewards you with pleasure chemicals when you advance in these artificial hierarchies, even though this advancement may actually reduce your happiness and limit your potential. Your biological programming for tribal belonging creates vulnerability to group identity manipulation. You feel compelled to join political movements, religious communities, professional associations, and social causes, not because they serve your authentic development, but because your biology craves the feeling of belonging to something larger than yourself. The human game exploits this biological need by providing numerous group identities that feel meaningful while actually serving the interests of those who benefit from having populations organized into manageable, predictable categories. You expend enormous energy defending group beliefs and attacking other groups, while your individual potential remains undeveloped. Your sexual and reproductive programming gets redirected into relationship patterns that may have nothing to do with authentic connection or genuine love. You feel compelled to seek romantic partnerships, maintain family connections, and create offspring not necessarily because these activities serve your transcendence, but because your biology rewards these behaviors regardless of their actual impact on your life satisfaction. The human game uses your biological programming for pair bonding and child rearing to keep you focused on relationship maintenance, family obligations, and social conformity. You remain trapped in relationship dynamics that drain your energy and limit your growth, because your biology makes these dynamics feel natural and necessary. Perhaps most significantly, your biological programming for immediate survival creates what psychologists call temporal discounting, the tendency to prioritize immediate benefits over long-term consequences. This programming served your ancestors, who faced immediate physical threats, but it sabotages your ability to pursue the sustained effort required for genuine transcendence. You choose immediate pleasures over long-term development, quick fixes over fundamental solutions, comfortable familiarity over challenging growth opportunities. Your biology rewards you for choices that feel good now, while preventing you from making investments that would create profound transformation over time. The human game exploits this temporal discounting by providing constant streams of immediate gratification, entertainment, consumer goods, social media stimulation, relationship drama, that keep you distracted from activities that could lead to transcendence. You remain focused on managing immediate biological urges while never developing the sustained attention required for going beyond biological programming entirely. Your biological programming also creates what researchers call negativity bias, the tendency to focus more attention on potential threats than potential opportunities. This bias helped your ancestors survive in dangerous environments by making them hyper-vigilant about dangers, but it now keeps you focused on problems, limitations, and fears rather than possibilities for transcendence. The human game exploits negativity bias through news media that emphasizes dangers and crises, social dynamics that focus on gossip and conflict, and economic systems that create artificial scarcity and competition. You spend your mental energy reacting to manufactured threats, while opportunities for genuine growth and transcendence remain invisible. Breaking free from the biological trap requires understanding that your biological programming is not your authentic nature. It's evolutionary software running on hardware that you can learn to reprogram. You are not your biology any more than you are your social conditioning. Both are systems that can be understood, transcended, and redirected toward purposes you consciously choose. The person beginning to transcend biological programming experiences what can be an initially disorienting recognition that most of what they considered their natural personality, authentic desires, and genuine preferences were actually biological responses that they had mistaken for their true self. This recognition opens the possibility of discovering what remains when you're not driven by biological imperatives, social conditioning, or cultural programming. What wants to emerge when you're not seeking approval, competing for resources, avoiding threats, or pursuing biological rewards? What becomes possible when you operate from consciousness itself, rather than from the biological and social software that has been running your life unconsciously? When you truly stop playing the human game, when you cease defining yourself through roles, relationships, achievements, and identities, when you transcend both biological programming and social conditioning, something extraordinary begins to emerge that most people never discover exists within them. This emergence doesn't happen overnight, and it's not a comfortable process. The ego identity that has been constructed through playing the human game experiences the cessation of game playing as death. All the familiar reference points that have provided meaning, purpose, and security begin to dissolve, creating what mystics throughout history have called the dark night of the soul. During this dissolution phase, you may experience profound disorientation as the structures that have organized your experience of reality break down. Your career may feel meaningless. Your relationships may feel artificial. Your beliefs may feel arbitrary. Your goals may feel pointless. This isn't depression or psychological illness. It's the natural consequence of withdrawing your energy from games that no longer serve your development. But beyond this dissolution lies something that transcends all human categories and limitations. What emerges is not a better version of your human identity, but a recognition of what you actually are beyond all identities. This recognition has been described throughout history using various terms: consciousness, awareness, being, presence, but all these terms point toward the same fundamental discovery. You begin to realize that you are not the thoughts that arise in your mind, but the awareness in which thoughts appear. You are not the emotions that flow through your experience, but the space in which emotions arise and dissolve. You are not the roles you play or the relationships you maintain, but the consciousness that observes all experiences without being limited by any of them. This recognition brings what can only be called freedom, not political freedom or social freedom, but existential freedom from the need to be anyone or anything in particular. You no longer require external validation because you no longer identify with anything that could be validated or invalidated. You no longer compete for scarce resources because you recognize your essential nature as abundance itself. The practical implications of this transcendence are profound and often surprising. You may find that you naturally begin making choices that serve long-term well-being rather than immediate gratification, not because you're forcing yourself to be disciplined, but because short-sighted choices no longer appeal to you. You may discover that you spontaneously begin treating others with genuine compassion, not because you're trying to be good, but because the artificial separation between self and other has dissolved. Most remarkably, you may find that your effectiveness in practical matters actually increases rather than decreases. Without the energy drain of maintaining artificial identities, managing others' opinions, and playing status games, you have vastly more resources available for creative expression, problem-solving, and authentic contribution. The person who has transcended the human game doesn't become antisocial or withdrawn from practical life. Instead, they engage with the world from a fundamentally different orientation, not as someone trying to get something from life, but as consciousness expressing itself through whatever activities feel authentic and beneficial. Their work becomes expression rather than identity. Their relationships become choice rather than need. Their goals become preferences rather than compulsions. They may pursue similar activities to when they were playing the human game, but their motivation and experience of these activities is completely transformed. This transformation often makes them more successful in conventional terms, not less, because they're no longer handicapped by the psychological limitations that the human game imposed. They can take risks without fear of losing their identity, make decisions without needing others' approval, and pursue opportunities without being paralyzed by the possibility of failure. But more importantly, they discover forms of fulfillment that are unavailable to people still trapped within the human game. Instead of the temporary satisfactions that come from winning at various games, they experience the permanent satisfaction that comes from recognizing their essential nature. Instead of the conditional happiness that depends on external circumstances, they access unconditional well-being that exists independent of what happens in their life. This transcendent state doesn't eliminate preferences, desires, or goals. It transforms their nature. Instead of grasping after things you think you need, you find yourself naturally drawn toward experiences and activities that align with your authentic nature. Instead of pursuing goals to prove your worth, you pursue goals as expressions of your creativity and contribution. The most profound aspect of transcending the human game is the recognition that you were never actually a player in the first place. What you took to be your essential self, the one who was trying to win at life, struggling with challenges, seeking fulfillment, was itself just another game piece, a constructed identity that was playing a role without realizing it. When this constructed identity dissolves, what remains is not emptiness or void, but the recognition of what you have always been beyond all games, identities, and limitations. This recognition doesn't require beliefs, practices, or achievements. It's simply a matter of stopping all the activities that have been obscuring your essential nature and allowing what has always been present to become apparent. This is not a philosophical concept or spiritual belief. It's the most practical discovery possible because it eliminates the fundamental error that creates all suffering and limitation, the mistake of identifying yourself with something you are not. Once this error is corrected, life becomes an expression of consciousness rather than a struggle for consciousness, a celebration of being rather than a search for being, a manifestation of completeness rather than an attempt to become complete. Transcending the human game is not an abstract philosophical concept, but a practical process that can be approached systematically. However, this process cannot be reduced to techniques, practices, or methods, because all techniques exist within the framework of the game. They assume someone is trying to achieve something, which reinforces the very identity structures that must be transcended. The practical path beyond the game begins with what we might call systematic disidentification, the gradual withdrawal of your sense of self from all the roles, relationships, achievements, and identities that have been defining your experience. This is not about rejecting or abandoning these aspects of your life, but about ceasing to derive your sense of identity and worth from them. Begin by examining your automatic responses to the question, "Who are you?" Notice how you immediately reference your job, relationships, beliefs, accomplishments, or personal characteristics. Each of these references represents a game identity that you can learn to hold lightly rather than identifying with completely. Practice introducing yourself without using any role-based identities. Instead of "I'm a teacher," try "I currently work in education." Instead of "I'm a parent," try "I have children." Instead of "I'm spiritual," try "I'm interested in consciousness." This subtle linguistic shift begins to create psychological distance between your essential self and your temporary roles. The next step involves what could be called motivation examination, becoming aware of the underlying drives that motivate your choices and gradually distinguishing between motivations that emerge from game participation and impulses that arise from authentic preference. When you feel compelled to pursue a goal, ask yourself, "Am I doing this because I genuinely want this outcome, or because I think achieving it will prove something about my worth?" When you feel resistance to an opportunity, ask, "Am I avoiding this because it doesn't align with my authentic interests, or because I'm afraid of others' judgments?" This examination reveals that many of your supposed preferences are actually conditioned responses designed to maintain your position within various games. You may discover that you don't actually want many of the things you've been pursuing, and you may uncover authentic interests that you've been suppressing because they didn't fit your game identities. Develop what might be called preference without attachment, the ability to have genuine preferences while remaining unattached to whether these preferences are satisfied. You can want certain outcomes while being equally okay with not getting them. you can work towards while not needing to achieve them to feel valuable or complete. This detachment doesn't create apathy or lack of motivation. It eliminates the desperate, neurotic energy that comes from needing specific outcomes to maintain your sense of identity. You can pursue your authentic interests with full engagement while remaining free from the anxiety and suffering that comes from attachment to results. Practice response choice in daily interactions, creating space between stimulus and response, where you can choose your reaction based on conscious intention rather than automatic programming. When someone criticizes you, notice the impulse to defend, attack, or withdraw, and experiment with responding from a place of curiosity rather than reactivity. When you feel strong emotions arising, practice observing them as temporary biochemical events rather than important messages that require immediate action. You can feel angry without needing to express anger, experience fear without needing to avoid what you're afraid of, feel sad without needing to fix whatever seems to be causing sadness. Develop what could be called systematic non-participation in activities that serve no authentic purpose in your life. Stop watching news that creates anxiety without enabling effective action. Stop participating in gossip that serves no constructive purpose. Stop consuming entertainment that numbs you rather than enriching your experience. This non-participation creates space for authentic interests and activities to emerge naturally. Instead of filling your time with game-playing behaviors, allow periods of emptiness where you can discover what wants to arise when you're not constantly reacting to external stimulation. Begin practicing what might be called identity experimentation, temporarily adopting different perspectives and ways of being to discover what feels most authentic when you're not trapped within familiar identity structures. Spend time being someone who doesn't need others' approval, someone who isn't competing with anyone, someone who has nothing to prove. Most importantly, develop comfort with not knowing who you are beyond all roles and identities. This not knowing is not ignorance or confusion. It's the space of pure potential where transcendence becomes possible. The more comfortable you become with the dissolution of familiar identity structures, the more available you become to discover what exists beyond all identities. The practical path beyond the human game is ultimately about ceasing to do rather than learning to do something new. It's about stopping the activities that maintain artificial identity structures rather than adding new practices to your spiritual collection. It's about recognizing what you already are rather than becoming something different. This recognition is not an achievement or accomplishment. It's simply a matter of ceasing to be distracted by games that have been preventing you from noticing what has always been present. When the games stop, what remains is not emptiness, but the fullness of being that has been your essential nature all along. The game will continue with or without your participation. Others will continue playing while remaining unaware that they are playing. The systems that depend on game participation will continue functioning by recruiting new players to replace those who transcend. Your choice affects only your own experience, but that choice determines whether you spend your remaining years as a character in someone else's game or as the consciousness in which all games appear and disappear without touching your essential nature. To transcend, you must stop playing the human game. The human game is not evil or wrong. It is simply unnecessary for those who are ready to transcend it. It served a function in your development, providing experiences and challenges that prepared you for the possibility of going beyond all games entirely. But continuation in any game, no matter how sophisticated or spiritual, prevents the ultimate recognition of what you are beyond all playing. To transcend means to recognize that you are not a human being having spiritual experiences, but consciousness itself appearing as a human experience. This recognition eliminates the fundamental error that creates all limitation and suffering. The mistake of identifying yourself with what you are experiencing rather than recognizing yourself as that in which all experience appears. When this recognition stabilizes, life becomes expression rather than achievement, celebration rather than struggle, service rather than seeking. You no longer need to win at life because you recognize that you are life itself. You no longer need to find meaning because you discover that you are meaning itself. You no longer need to become complete because you recognize that you are completeness itself. The moment of choice has arrived, and unlike the illusory choices offered within the human game, this choice is real and consequential. You can continue playing the game, seeking approval, competing for resources, identifying with roles, pursuing achievements that provide temporary satisfaction while keeping you perpetually incomplete. Or you can choose to transcend the game entirely and discover what you actually are beyond all categories, identities, and limitations. If you choose to continue playing, understand what you are accepting. You are choosing to remain identified with a fictional character in a game that has no ultimate meaning or purpose except to perpetuate itself. You are accepting that your happiness will continue to depend on external circumstances, that your sense of worth will remain tied to others' opinions, that your peace will be conditional on achieving goals that will never provide lasting satisfaction. You are committing to spend your life, energy maintaining an identity that is not your true nature, pursuing objectives that do not serve your authentic development, and participating in relationships based on mutual need rather than genuine recognition and love. But if you choose transcendence, if you decide to stop playing the human game entirely, you are accepting something far more challenging and infinitely more rewarding. You are choosing to discover who you are when you are not trying to be anyone in particular. You are embracing the dissolution of everything you have thought yourself to be in service of discovering what you actually are. This choice requires extraordinary courage because it means releasing every familiar reference point that has provided meaning, identity, and security. It means being willing to disappoint others whose psychological needs have been served by your game participation. It means accepting the responsibility of living from authentic choice rather than social programming. You are choosing to live as consciousness itself rather than as a character that consciousness has been playing. You are selecting freedom over security, authenticity over approval, being over becoming. You are embracing the unknown territory beyond all human categories, where transcendence is not just possible, but inevitable. You have now seen behind the curtain of human existence and discovered that what you've been calling life has actually been participation in an elaborate game designed to prevent you from discovering your true nature. You understand that your thoughts, emotions, desires, and fears are not authentic expressions of your essential self, but programmed responses that keep you trapped within artificial limitations. The most challenging aspect of transcending the human game is not the difficulty of the transcendence itself, but the enormous resistance you'll encounter, both from within your own psychology and from the systems and relationships that depend on your continued participation in the game. Internal resistance emerges because the ego identity that has been constructed through game-playing experiences, the cessation of the game as existential threat. This identity has organized itself entirely around game participation, seeking approval, competing for resources, maintaining relationships, pursuing goals, defending beliefs. When you begin to withdraw energy from these activities, the ego interprets this withdrawal as impending death and activates every possible mechanism to pull you back into the game. This internal resistance manifests as intense fear that transcendence will make you ineffective, unsuccessful, lonely, or meaningless. Your ego generates compelling arguments for why you need to continue playing. You have responsibilities to others. You'll lose everything you've worked for. People will think you've lost your mind. You'll become selfish and uncaring. You'll accomplish nothing and contribute nothing. These fears feel completely real and urgent because they emerge from the same psychological structures that have been managing your survival within the human game. Your ego cannot distinguish between transcending the game and actual death because, from its perspective, they are the same thing. The internal resistance also operates through what psychologists call addiction withdrawal. Playing the human game provides regular doses of neurochemical rewards: dopamine from achievement, oxytocin from social connection, serotonin from status advancement. When you begin withdrawing from game participation, your brain experiences genuine biochemical withdrawal that feels like depression, anxiety, and meaninglessness. This withdrawal creates powerful motivation to return to game-playing behaviors that will restore familiar neurochemical rewards. You may find yourself compulsively checking social media for validation, creating unnecessary drama to feel engaged, or pursuing achievements that no longer genuinely interest you, simply because your brain craves the chemical rewards that these activities provide. External resistance comes from the systems and relationships that have been organized around your game participation. Your family members may feel threatened when you stop seeking their approval or stop participating in familiar dynamics. Your colleagues may become uncomfortable when you stop competing for status or stop deriving identity from your work role. Your friends may feel abandoned when you stop participating in shared complaints, gossip, or entertainment consumption. This external resistance often manifests as attempts to guilt, shame, or manipulate you back into previous patterns. People who benefited from your game participation will frame your transcendence as selfishness, irresponsibility, or mental illness. They'll remind you of your obligations, question your values, and predict dire consequences for your choices. The most sophisticated external resistance comes from institutional systems that require your game participation to maintain their existence. Educational systems need students who believe that credentials determine worth. Economic systems need workers who identify with their roles and compete for advancement. Political systems need citizens who identify with ideologies and compete with opposing groups. These systems have developed elaborate mechanisms for recapturing people who begin to transcend game participation. They offer upgraded versions of the game, more sophisticated roles, higher status positions, exclusive opportunities that feel like transcendence, but are actually more elaborate forms of the same fundamental patterns. The spiritual and self-development industries present perhaps the most subtle form of external resistance by creating games that appear to lead toward transcendence, but actually keep you trapped in spiritual materialism, collecting experiences, comparing progress, identifying as an evolved person, competing for enlightenment. You can spend decades pursuing spiritual development while never actually transcending the human game because you've simply shifted from playing conventional games to playing spiritual games. Instead of seeking material success, you seek spiritual achievement. Instead of competing for social status, you compete for spiritual status. Instead of identifying with career roles, you identify with spiritual roles. The resistance to transcendence is also built into the very language and concepts available for discussing these matters. The words we use to describe transcendence, enlightenment, awakening, self-realization, immediately create new categories that the ego can identify with and new games that can be played. This linguistic trap means that even thinking and talking about transcendence can become forms of game participation that prevent actual transcendence. The moment you start identifying as someone who is seeking awakening or working on transcendence, you've created a new game identity that can be maintained indefinitely without any actual transformation occurring. Perhaps the most challenging aspect of resistance is recognizing that most people, including those you care about most, have enormous psychological investment in your continued game participation. Your transcendence threatens their worldview, challenges their choices, and eliminates their ability to use familiar relationship dynamics to meet their own psychological needs. The people closest to you often become the strongest opponents of your transcendence, not because they want to harm you, but because your transformation forces them to confront their own game participation. They need you to remain trapped in the same patterns they're trapped in to validate their choice to remain trapped. This social resistance means that transcendence often requires a willingness to be misunderstood, criticized, and potentially rejected by people whose approval has been important to you. It requires developing the strength to remain committed to your authentic development, even when others interpret this commitment as betrayal of your relationships with them. The resistance to transcendence is not a bug in the system. It's a feature designed to ensure that only those who are genuinely committed to going beyond the human game actually do so. The resistance serves as a filter that eliminates people who are only casually interested in transcendence, while allowing passage for those who are willing to sacrifice everything that isn't authentic for the sake of discovering what is.